The first night, the wind came down from the Mokattam Hills like a train without tracks. Alex and I were on a consultancy trip for a Cairo NGO documenting water access in desert villages. The plan was to reach a hamlet called Al-Hitan east of Fayoum, spend 2 nights, and speak to the well guardian, the sheik everyone mentioned, the man with the iron keys. By late afternoon the asphalt surrendered to ruts, and the car's AC coughed dust instead of cold. A boy on a donkey pointed with his whole arm. "Straight, straight," he shouted, then hid his face as a gust lifted the ground and threw it at us. Al-Hitan didn't look like a place. It looked like an argument with time. Goats threaded courtyards. Blue doors leaned crookedly in whitewashed walls. Satellite dishes tilted toward a hard sky. In the square we found the well ringed by date palms. Their fronds clacked like bone fans. A yellow rope hung from a pulley. When the bucket rose, the water smelled like pennies. The sheik introduced himself as Hassan. He was older than he first appeared, beard gone to salt, eyes clear as bottle glass. "You sleep at my sister's house," he said, already walking. "There is no hotel. Only tea and sleep." Inside, the house was cool, its floors layered with kilims dyed in shadow colors, deep reds, bruised blues. Fatima, his sister, poured sweet mint tea and set cucumbers and bread between us. She asked how long we would stay. Alex said 2 nights. Fatima nodded and glanced toward the door, as if listening for someone arriving late. After sundown, the electricity flickered and held. Alex spread out maps on the floor, pencil steady, notes tight. I photographed the wellhead, the silt line, the paths radiating like veins. The wind pressed against the shutters and relented, as if testing our resolve. We returned to the square. Hassan lit a lantern. Its glow licked the stone curb and turned the water to black glass. Men played tola on a low table, dice like tiny teeth. "Do people fall in?" I asked, joking. Hassan did not laugh. He tapped the iron keys at his belt. "Once," he said. "A child. We still tie the rope when we pull." "Is there another well nearby?" Alex asked. Hassan nodded, though his gaze stayed on the water. "There is a Roman spring, clogged. We do not drink from it. Contaminated." "Not that. Old water is heavy," he said, as if that were explanation enough. We walked back under a sky too large to belong to a single village. A mosque speaker coughed and unfurled the night prayer. Fatima laid thin mattresses in a back room where the roof was reed and wood. Before sleep, she pressed amber oil into our palms. "For the breath," she said. Sometime after midnight the wind returned, meaner. I woke to the slap of rope against the well's pulley, though we were indoors. Under it came a hollow knocking, irregular, like knuckles on an empty drum. I held my breath and listened for Alex's. He was awake too. In the silence between gusts we both heard it, water moving when nothing touched it, as if someone below were exhaling slowly through pursed lips, patient and sure, testing the weight of the old rope. The sound did not fade. It paced itself, like a swimmer turning and pushing off a wall, each surge deliberate, then stillness. I felt the mattress tremble once, lightly, no breeze on my skin. Alex whispered, "It's the wind." I said, "What if it isn't?" Morning arrived with grit on our teeth. Fatima served full and flatbread, while a radio hummed Quran in another room. Hassan brought a ledger tied in string. Each page listed dates, names, and buckets drawn. "Rationing," he said. "In summer, stricter." He showed us the padlock for the pulley. We measured salinity and turbidity, logged usage, and spoke with women who queued at dawn. One, a widow named Samira, said the wind had worsened this past year. "It hurries you," she said, not smiling. An old man in the shade tapped his cane at the curb. "This stone is Roman," he said. "The spring too. The Romans did not fear old water. They married it." Alex and I walked beyond the palms where the ground sank slightly. A ring of broken brick lay half visible, like a bracelet in sand. "The Roman spring," Alex said. We marked coordinates. A plastic bag snagged on a thorn and snapped like a small animal. Back in the square, a pickup arrived stacked with jerrycans. The driver offered to ferry extra water tomorrow if the wind let him make time. He eyed the well the way a gambler eyes a table. Hassan was polite but firm. "We have enough." By late afternoon, thin cloud gathered, the sky whitening like breath on glass. Alex suggested we test the tie-offs. The rope's fibers felt stiff and powdery. He noted a recommendation for a chained collar on the bucket handle. I asked Hassan about the child. He glanced at Fatima's doorway. "Her first son," he said. "Years ago. A sandstorm. Someone failed to tie the rope." At dusk we sat under date fronds. Fatima brewed strong coffee tasting of cardamom and smoke. Men drifted by, asking about Cairo. A boy chased a bald tire. Then, when the call to prayer began, stopped and backed away from the well as if remembering a rule. That night the wind became articulate. It found the gaps in the reed roof and made the amber bottles stop a chirp. I drifted, surfaced, drifted again. In the grey spaces between sleep and not, I heard it, rope creaking under load, and, beneath that, a wet sigh that was not the bucket. Alex sat up, listening hard enough to tremble the mattress. From the square came a clack of metal, then the click of a lock. We stepped into the courtyard. Stars glittered like spilled salt. The square was empty. The pulley rocked as if it had only just stopped. The padlock on the brace was shut, but the yellow rope bore two tight twists that hadn't been there earlier, like impatient handwriting. "We're overtired," Alex said. "Morning we'll check the rope for stretch." I agreed because the alternative was to say, "A child drowns, and then for years the wind learns the house, and tonight it puts its mouth to the well and calls back what it took." Before dawn, Fatima knocked softly and handed us dates. "Don't go east today," she said. "The Sobka will flood if the rain comes. People think the desert drinks everything. It doesn't. It remembers." After breakfast, we interviewed a teacher who kept attendance on a slate. She said the school lost 3 students to farm work and 1 to marriage. When I asked about accidents, she said the municipality sent an engineer who wrote a report and left. No rail came. A shepherd added that in Khamsin season you could hear the Roman spring breathe, like a bottle emptying underfoot. He lifted his heel and grinned, as if to show there was only story. Rain came in a sheet you could draw a straight line with. By noon the track east was a smear, and the Sobka turned from salt pan to mirror. The pickup driver tried to gun it through and buried his rear axle. Water rose around the tires. Hassan walked from house to house securing shutters. Alex and I moved gear off the floor. The power blinked and failed. Fatima said it was the first rain this hard since her father's time. She laid towels by the door and told us to stay away from the square. The square was a basin. Rain ran along the palm fronds and fell in lines. The well rope was tied off, padlock set, everything as we had seen the night before, but the wind took the rain and flung it at our faces sideways. Across the emptiness, the taller table had tipped, and one die lodged in a crack. A shout carried. The shepherd we'd met was waving from the far lane. His sheep had scattered. 2 lambs had fallen into a shallow trench where runoff hissed. Alex sprinted, then checked himself because speed here meant falling. We helped drag the lambs out and corral the flock into a walled yard. The shepherd thanked us, then pressed his hand to his heart. By evening the sobka spread slickly to the edge of the square, reflecting a blunt white sky. Phones found a bar of service, and then none. I sent a text to our Cairo contact. It failed. A diesel generator coughed in a nearby courtyard and went still. From the house we heard Fatima reciting verses. Something metallic rattled. The well pulley knocked once, twice, then steadied. Hassan, standing under the mosque awning, raised his hand. "Not tonight," he said to no one I could see. The same boy peeked from behind the tea stall and then ran home hunched. Alex touched my sleeve. "This isn't good," he said. But he was looking at the rope. The twists we had noticed were gone. The rope hung as plain as a tongue. Rainwater beaded on the fibers. "Let's get the collar done," I said. We had brought a light chain and a carabiner for precisely this. Hassan fetched his keys. He hesitated, then put the ring in my hand. I worked the padlock open. Alex knelt with the chain. "Quick," he said, but not because of the rain. When I untied the bucket knot, the rope slipped 2 inches without my pulling. I grabbed the line and felt movement, not a fall, not drift, a steady, deliberate draw, as if the rope had been waiting for slack and took it with gratitude. "Hold," Alex said. He fed the chain through the handle. The line tugged again and stopped. "There's backflow from the Sobka," I said, but the well mouth was higher than any standing water. A woman's voice called out. Samira stood in her doorway. "Hassan," she cried, "my nephew is missing." Other doors opened. The shepherd shouted that the boy had been sent to fetch a bucket of mud to seal a leak. He pointed at the far lane, then at the well, then back at the lane. The rain thickened. Hassan looked at me, then at the rope in my hands. He chose the boy. "Lock it," he said. "No more water tonight." Within minutes the square became a search post. Hassan sent men with headlamps toward the lanes and the low fields. Fatima pressed dates and a thermos into my arms. Alex checked our batteries and handed out 2 torches. Someone produced a whistle and blew 3 bursts, waited, then blew again. No answer came back through the rain. We split by habit. Hassan took the western lanes with the shepherd. Alex and I followed a line of runoff toward the depression we had marked as the Roman Spring. The Sobka gleamed ahead like a broken mirror. Rain softened to a steady drumming that made distance hard to judge. We found footprints before we found the boy. Bare, almost erased. They angled toward the reeds where the ground sloped. At the edge of the old brick ring, the mud had collapsed inward, leaving a crescent the color of coffee. Alex crouched and held his light low. There was water down there, not far, dark and moving, the surface quivering from the rain's impact. Somewhere air passed, an in-out. "He came here," Alex said. A voice called weakly from the lane behind us. Hassan and the shepherd hustled a shivering boy into the circle of our lights. He was muddy and shaking. Samira arrived half-running and gathered him. "He was in the alley," Hassan said. "He hid. He says he heard someone calling him from below." The boy looked up at the rain like it might answer for him. "No more stories," Hassan said. "The shepherd said storms wake old paths, and air pushes through like someone sleeping under a blanket." Back in the square, the wind wandered. We decided to secure the well. Alex and I worked the collar onto the bucket handle and threaded the carabiner. As we tightened the chain, a pulse ran through the rope and the bucket knocked the stone curb. "Let's draw once," Alex said. We hauled in small hand-over-hand pulls. Halfway up, the line went slack and then stuck. It felt pinched. Alex leaned, reached down, and braced his foot on the curb. A gust hit. His boot slid. He dropped to his hips, legs kicking. I grabbed his belt and hauled him sideways. We both crashed. The rope thrummed once, like a plucked wire, and then settled. "Enough," Hossan said. We lowered the bucket, retied the knot, and locked the brace. Fatima came to the door and told us to come inside. The rain would turn mean again after midnight. She was right. It did. Morning brought the stink of wet dust and a rinsed sky. The road west was passable by noon. Hossan pressed dates into our hands and made us promise to send the report. Fatima hugged us both like siblings and said, "Next time, you bring winter coats." At the edge of the village, the boy stood with Samira. He raised a hand and cupped his ear, a joke. Even laughing, he kept space between himself and the well. We stopped where the hills fell and the city gathered. I wrote, "Fit collar, replace rope, grate the spring, check airflow routes." Then I wrote, "The wind can sound like a voice if it is allowed a shape." In Cairo we filed our report. Alex backed up our audio clips from the trip. One night later, he texted me at 2:11 a.m., "Listen to clip 37. I did. It was the well in rain, rope creak, padlock clicking. At 14 seconds there was a breath, and then my name in a child's voice. On the third play, it was only wind. I stared at the waveform and told myself I'd primed my ears. 2 weeks later our NGO contact forwarded a notice. Operations to cap unused springs in Al-Hitan would begin after Eid. An hour later Hassan's name lit my phone. His message was brief. Send chain. Keys fell. It read like a man careful not to wake someone sleeping next to him. I typed a reply and stopped. Outside my window, the city wind moved through laundry lines and power cables, shaping itself, patient as old water.